The other form of the teleological argument that we're going to discuss is called the best explanation design argument. William Paley is the person we attribute the teleological argument to. And Paley said, even if you've never seen a watch, even if you've never talked to a watch designer, the actual watch gives us evidence that it must have been designed without prior experience. Consider this. You're walking along the beach, you stumble upon a piece of wood. Okay, it's a few feet long, it's kind of crooked, but it's smooth and kind of round. Okay? What are you going to think about this piece of wood? Where do you think this piece of wood originated? How did it get its shape? Well, those of you who aren't overthinking the problem probably said, well, it's just driftwood. It's just a branch probably that fell into the ocean, an underwater tree or a storm, took a branch from a tree down and knocked it into the ocean. It got knocked around for a while and it got washed up on shore. Driftwood. Perfectly reasonable explanation, right? Now, I want you to imagine you continue walking down the beach when you stumble upon another piece of wood. This piece of wood, however, happens to be shaped into a perfect bust of Thomas Jefferson. Now, how many of you are going to pick up this piece of wood shaped as a perfect bust of Thomas Jefferson, take a look at it and go, wow, nature is good? No, we are not inclined to believe that some piece of wood fell into the ocean knocked it around long enough that when it washed up on shore, it was shaped like Thomas Jefferson's bust. Right? Where did that piece of wood, where did that bust of Thomas Jefferson originate? It was carved, right? Somebody carved it, somebody made it, and somehow or other it ended up in the ocean and washed up on shore. The point is that the complexity of the second piece of wood tells us that the more reasonable explanation is that it was carved, it was designed to be of that shape. Whereas the simplicity of the piece of driftwood tells us that it randomly could have come about. And that's the point here. Paley says, even if I've never seen a watch, if I come upon one and I find, and we're talking like old-time 18th century, 17th or 18th century watches, pocket watches that you had to wind and no computerized stuff in it. You open up the case and you have all these gears and springs and things that fit just right into the case. And the case can close around it. Well, if you find all of these intricate little pieces that fit together in just the right way to be enclosed in this case, are you going to think they all just happened to fall out of the sky and happen to land right where they were supposed to be so that they could fit? Or are you going to think that the complexity of it tells us there must have been a designer behind it? Paley says the universe exhibits apparent design. The best explanation of this design is that it was designed by a supernatural being. Therefore, it's probable that the universe was designed by a supernatural being, namely God. The idea here is that, yes, there is apparent design. There is complexity in the universe. Number one is true. Number two says, it seems like there are two options for the existence of that complexity. Either it fell into place randomly, or it was created by an intelligent designer. Well, what is the likelihood that complex things come about because their parts fall into place randomly? The chances of that are really, 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 really low. It is far more reasonable to think complexity is a product of a designer rather than randomness. It's far easier to believe someone carved that piece of wood to make it look like Thomas Jefferson than that piece of wood got knocked around by the ocean until it looked like Thomas Jefferson. So that's the motivation behind 2. Well, if there's apparent design, and if the best explanation of that design is that it was designed by a supernatural being, then in fact, it's probable that the universe was designed by a supernatural being. And the best candidate for that is God. Does that make sense?